Assalamualaikum and good morning to everyone that watching this video. Today, me with my friend will present the topic we have chosen as our topic presentation, which is amphibians versus reptiles. But at first, I would like to take this opportunity to thank my lecturer, Dr. Zalipa Mohammed, who has given us a lot of knowledge and sharing throughout the learning. And we are very grateful and appreciate it, Doctor. So, what are we waiting for? Let's start! Before we start, I will introduce our speaker from this video. Hello, my name is MOHAMMAD HAIQAL bin NACHI from Student Biodiversity Management and Conservation, originally from the state of Sabah.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Faizuddin. So, I wanted to talk about what is amphibian. Amphibian is a cold-blooded vertebrate animals of a class that comprises the frog, toads, newts, salamanders, and caecilian. They are distinguished by having an aquatic gills breathing larval stage followed typically by a terrestrial lung breathing adult stage. Amphibians are vertebrates which are able when adults to live both in water and on land. Unlike fish, they can breathe atmospheric oxygen through lungs, and they differ from reptiles in that they have soft, moist, usually scaleless skin and have to breathe in water. So this is an example for amphibians. So at the top we have caecilian from orders Gymnophiona. At my right there is toad from orders Anura, and then at the bottom we have Chinese giant salamander from orders Urodela, and then at my left we have from orders Anura, that is frog.
Then, how about reptiles? Different from amphibians, reptiles are vertebrate animal of a class that includes snakes, lizards, crocodiles, turtles, and tortoises. Reptiles are air-breathing, cold-blooded vertebrates that have scaly bodies rather than hair or feathers. Most reptile species are egg-laying, though certain squamates. Let's see the example for the reptiles. Number 1, Haloderma suspectum, also known Gila monster from order Squamata. Number 2, Dermochelis coriacea, also known leatherback sea turtle from family order Testudine. Number 3, Gavialis congeticus, also known cavial crocodile from order Crocodilia. Number 4, boa constrictor, also known boa constrictor from order Squamata. And last but not least, number 5, Sphenodon punctatus, also known Tuatara from order Sphenodonta. We choose this topic as our assignment because we are very interested in these two types of different class, which is amphibian and reptiles. Other than that, we want to make a clear comparison between these two types of class accurately and with authentic explanation. So, and all morphological structure and internal organs are compared through the difference and similarity found between these two types of class.
So let's start to do comparison between amphibians and reptiles. So firstly, we wanted to talk about the similarities of both class amphibians and reptiles for their physical appearance. Frog, toads, and salamanders are amphibians with 4 limbs that are similar to those of reptiles like turtles, lizards, tautarus, and crocodiles. On the other hand, amphibians like caecilians have no limb similar to snakes or reptiles. The differences between these both class for physical appearance is amphibians usually have smooth skin, moist and granular. For example, the species that we have here, golden poison frogs, Trilobite terribilis. Meanwhile, reptiles have body covered by keratinized epidermal scales and sometimes they have bony dermal plates. Next, other differences of physical appearance in terms of size. Firstly, at the left, the smallest amphibians is a frog from New Guinea that is only about 7.7 millimeters long. The largest amphibians is the Chinese giant salamanders, Andreas Davidianus, which can grow up to 1.8 meters long. And then at the right, the smallest reptiles is a gecko from the Caribbean that is only about 17 millimeters long. The largest reptiles is the saltwater crocodile Crocodylus porosus, which can reach over 6 meters long.
Then, let's move forward to the skeletal system. The similarities of both classes in skeletal system can be identified by amphibians and reptiles are vertebrates, which is normally animals with backbones. Actually, all the classes in subphylum vertebrates have a backbone, not only for their both classes. Other than that, the majority of species have 4 legs, but there are a lot of exceptions in both groups. For instance, snake, amphibians and legless lizard for reptiles, and Sicilian or young level stage for most amphibians. Then, let's see what is the differences of both classes in skeletal system. Skeleton structure of reptiles. The skeleton of reptiles fit the general pattern of vertebrates. They have a bony skull, a long vertebral column that encloses the spinal nerve cord, ribs that form a protective bony basket around the viscera, and a framework of limbs. Reptile leg and otic notch, and several small bones at the rear of the skull roof. What is an otic notch? Otic notch is an indentation at the rear of the skull. For the skeleton structure of amphibians, the skeleton is strongly ossified with a long ilium in the pelvis, a reduced tail, elongated hind limb, short and robust forelimb. The skull shows the pedicellate teeth, a feature of all amphibians. The image shows the differences between amphibians and reptile skeletal system. The skeleton of Tuataras, Crocodilia, and some squamata shows the example for skeleton for reptiles. For the skeleton of frogs and toads shows that the common skeleton system or skeletal system for amphibians.
So now we wanted to talk about the differences of both in digestive system. Number 1, amphibian excretory system have paired mesonephric and opistonephric kidneys. Urea is the main nitrogenous waste. In comparison, reptiles have excretory system of metanephric kidneys and ureters that open into cloaca. Uric acid usually main nitrogenous waste. Number 2, amphibians usually have large mouths with small teeth in uppers or both jaws. Meanwhile, reptiles have polyphyodont teeth and absent in turtles, which have usually homodont with single point. Is it present in crocodilians?
Now, let's see the comparison in similarities of both in circulatory system. What is the similarities both of the classes in the circulatory system? First, both classes have a heart, veins, and arteries as well as smaller blood vessels. This shows that these two classes are more advanced in circulatory systems compared to the previous classes in subphylum vertebrate. Other than that, this circulation system also known as double circulation for both classes. Secondly, mostly both of groups have a 3-chamber heart for all amphibians and reptiles, with 2 atria and 1 ventricle, except for crocodilia. Last but not least, these two different types of classes have same circuit circulation, which are pulmonary circuit and systemic circuit. And what is the difference of both classes in circulatory system? So let's find out. Let's see the differences of both in circulatory system for amphibians and reptiles. Number 1, oxygen absorption. Amphibians have a higher absorption of oxygen into the body compared to reptiles. This is because the ventricle in amphibians are not completely divided like reptiles. So, they need and depend more oxygen from the network of capillaries that is close to the skin, acts as a source of oxygen supplies. As you can see on top of that image, there is a structure of amphibian skins, which is frog skin. Many blood capillaries at the bottom of the skin to help in absorption of oxygen in respiration. Number 2, heart structure. Some reptiles has a 4-chambered heart such as crocodilia. The reptilian heart has a partial septum between the ventricles. Structure of heart for reptile is more advanced compared than amphibians. We can see septum at the image of reptile's heart dividing a ventricle like it has a 2-chamber. The function of partial septum is to separate the atria and ventricle. This prevents the mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood in heart structure. Lastly, the size of heart. The heart is relatively large in amphibians compared to the size of their body, but the heart is relatively small in reptiles compared to the size of their body. As you can see, the size of heart for amphibians is actually big enough for them, even though from our naked eyes, the size of their heart is small.
Similarities for amphibians and reptiles in reproductive system. Most frogs are oviparous, same like reptiles. In this case, all turtles are oviparous. For example, green sea turtles are oviparous and they lay eggs that are encased in a hard shell. Next, most of salamanders is ovoviviparous, similar to reptiles like these snakes. Crotalus atrox is also ovoviviparous. Lastly, more than one-half of Sicilian species are viviparous, and some skink like Tiliqua nigro-lutea is viviparous for class reptiles. Differences for both reptiles and amphibians in reproductive system. For the reproductive system of reptiles, most reptiles reproduce sexually. They reproduce through internal fertilization, except for some lizards that reproduce asexually. The process is called parthenogenesis. And then, the reproduction for amphibians, most reproduce sexually, and most frogs reproduce through external reproduction, except for salamanders and Sicilian. So in these videos, during mating seasons, the males nude will wait for the females for reproduction. More than a dozen males competing to mate with a single female. The one that outcompete other competitors will do internal fertilization by inserting spermatophore to the females.
So, what we get from this? In a nutshell, we are able to distinguish significant similarities and differences between existing classes with the original morphology of the same common ancestor. We also can see advancement in terms of morphology and internal structure of these two classes when compared to the same common ancestor. Other than that, we can hold conservation for threatened and endangered species because it is very important to avoid extinction. That is all from us, and that brings us to the end. Thank you so much for your time and attention. We are really appreciate that, and thank you for watching.